Got a lot of territory to cover, so why don't we just jump right into it? A little bit about my background. One thing that kind of surprises people, I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. First 10 years of my career was in oil and gas, believe it or not. The oil collapse in the early 80s caused me to move to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Houston just had no jobs anymore. And eventually I got into software, went to work for Apple at one point as a business manager. And then after getting a plug-in vehicle, my wife got one. 60 days later, we got one for our youngest daughter when she got her driver's license about a year and a half later. And none of us are going back to gasoline again. We're all going to be electric going forward. I actually went to the dealership to talk to them about what their programs were, and they ended up hiring me and asked me to pick my title. So that's where I came up with EV-angelist. I'm spreading the good news of electric vehicles. And I knew nothing about commission sales. I knew nothing about selling cars. In fact, my personal opinion was that car salespeople were basically pond scum. And I always hated buying cars up until I started buying them for myself. So in the dealership world, we need your help. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people think that dealerships don't want to sell electric vehicles. That's not the case at all. They'll sell any kind of metal that you'll come in and buy. The problem is the salespeople that work there don't want to sell electric vehicles. And it's a pretty simple reason why. Basically, they are compensated and rewarded with awards and bonus and stuff based on the number of vehicles they sell per month. And somebody comes in, wants a pickup truck, it's real easy. You want a crew cab, regular cab, double cab. You want a long bed, short bed, 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive. All right, what color do you want? And we're done. We can sell that truck. Usually there's not even a test drive involved. People they know what they want in a pickup truck. They come in, they buy it, they go out the door. And because it's a very popular item, our profit margins are good. And so my commission will end up being good. And if I have to negotiate the price down, of course, my commission is getting negotiated down. Now, those first 6 years, someone comes in off the street thinking about an EV, heard that we had EVs in stock. They're going to have lots of questions. And the typical sales cycle for an EV is they'll come in and they'll ask you questions for about an hour, then they'll leave. They'll go home and think up new questions. They'll come in and ask you those at another appointment. 30 minutes to an hour. And this might happen 3 or 4 times before they finally decide to pull the trigger. But here comes the rub. When it comes time to actually buy the vehicle, they're going to call around town, even though they've used 4 hours of your time, let's say, learning about the cars, and see who will just discount the car the most and give them the best price. And everybody wants a good deal on a car. So you got a salesperson who's invested 3 times as much time as you usually invest selling a pickup truck. And now we're going to negotiate all the profit out of the deal and not give them a commission for that. So the next customer comes in, hey, I'd like to talk to you about an electric car. Oh, you don't want an electric car. You want a gasoline car. And here's why. And they'll never sell another electric car. So what can the utilities do to help the dealerships? If you call up dealerships and say, hey, we want to help you in some way move electric vehicles, most dealerships will go, oh, we're good enough at it, and hang up. Or they'll say, we don't care about electric cars. We don't want to ever sell them, and they'll hang up on you. So what can you do to help the car dealerships so that they'll listen to you? Well, the main thing a car dealership wants is they want qualified buyers sent to them. And you can do that. Now, what you're going to have to do to set that up is you have to be the ones educating the customer. We've got to take the workload off of those salespeople so that selling an EV is just as easy as selling a pickup truck. And to do that, we've got to have a place where they can go get information, and we've got to give them the information in the way that they're most comfortable receiving it. Younger people love video. Older people, I'm speaking for myself here, I prefer to read, so that if I didn't quite understand something, I just go back and read it one more time. I might even print it out and highlight it. I'm a dinosaur. But in the case of most people, that have bought them already. They were early adopters. They were willing to go search for that information and dig deep and read very long articles that maybe there was only one question they needed answered, but they'll read a 4 or 5 page long article to get that one answer. And unfortunately, they would then go into the dealerships and ask the salespeople question as a way to test that salesperson to see if they even knew what they were talking about. And a lot of them didn't. I mean, that's just a fact. But the fact is, then the reputation for EV buyers was they were these kind of picky people with lots of questions that were just trying to prove they were smarter than me. And again, that turned the salespeople off, made them not want to sell EVs. So we've got to get people interested in buying EVs connected to the dealership so that the dealerships will listen to us and let us help them. Otherwise, we actually have a chance that the industry may end up dying. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'll be a lot slower adoption if we don't help move this along. So what can the electric utility industry do? Well, one thing that's huge, and Austin Energy will be talking about this later because they've actually done it, is they put together a website where you can go in and learn about EVs. They've got a program where you can find the dealers in the area that are the best at selling EVs, that stock, the greatest numbers, so you can go in there and find one. And they've started that connection. And yet still, when the mayor of Austin put together a luncheon, only 3 dealerships showed up that really wanted to participate. So we not only have to approach the dealerships, we've got to approach the salespeople, and we'll cover that in a little bit. But the first thing is we've got to educate the customer, and we've got to do it in a way that is short, little bite-sized pieces. We don't want to put together a documentary, who killed the electric car, and you've got to watch it for 2 hours to decide if you want an electric vehicle or not. They may have one question: how much is it going to increase my electric bill? And if they can watch a 1 to 2 minute video that explains that to them very quickly and easily, they may get up and go into a dealership and test drive the car. So that's the first step. The next one is, I found that and by the way, I retired about 1.5 years ago to do this full time. I consult on selling electric vehicles. I teach dealerships and OEMs how to do it. And I'm a board member with Texetra, so now I'm working with the state government and a lot of different types of businesses, including electric utilities, about electric vehicle adoption. But what I found as a car salesman is nothing sold an electric vehicle quite like butts in seats. So you got to get them to test drive it. And believe it or not, I've had people trade in Corvettes and buy an electric vehicle. I had people come in wanting to buy a pickup truck. In fact, they drove from a different state. And when you're talking about Texas, that's quite a drive to get from a different state to my location. But they drove from a different state to my dealership, knowing that we were one of the largest in the world Chevrolet dealerships. They knew we'd have the inventory, and then they'd get talking to me and they'd drive home in a plug-in vehicle. It's really easy to do. Plug-in vehicles are great to sell. The salespeople need to understand that it's different than what they think. You come in and say, "Hey, I heard y'all have electric vehicles. I'm thinking about looking at one." The salesperson, in order to ingratiate themselves with the customers, might do something like, "Yeah, this global climate change is going to kill us all if we don't start doing stuff like what you're about to do." And 50% of the customers will turn around and walk out of the dealership. We are so polarized in the United States politically that there are people that would like to test drive an EV. They're curious about them. But if you connect that to climate change, immediately it's dead in the water. So we don't talk about the environment. We talk about why people buy cars. And they buy them for image. They buy them for fun. They buy them for low maintenance cost and low fuel cost. And all of those are check boxes that an EV fills beautifully. So what we've got to do is get butts in seats. Well, if the salespeople are all like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to you about an electric vehicle," how do they even get their butt in that seat and find out that an electric vehicle is the coolest thing they ever drove? And that's where you guys come in. Now, once a year, this year, it's going to be the last week of September, first week of October is National Drive Electric Week. And around the United States and Canada, there will be all these private individuals setting up shows to show off electric vehicles. And all these electric vehicle owners show up and show off their cars. They all gather in one spot. And so you can, check the website, see where it's going to be in your area, go there, talk to a bunch of different owners. Nobody's going to try to pressure you to buy a car. It's not like going to a car lot. And you'll get to find out what they like about their car, what they don't like about the car. But what we have not been able to get going on National Drive Electric Week is actually driving the electric car. And so what I would love to see is two things. One, let's stop doing it once a year, because what are we doing with the other 51 weeks? And two, let's get them in the car and either let them drive it or drive them around in a car. So let's say your utility decided to host an event like this. We need to get the word out. So we need to be all over the electric vehicle groups and Facebook, all the social media platforms. We need to blast it out there that we're holding this thing. We need to find out as electric utilities who our customers are that have electric vehicles, because we want to invite them to the event with their car to show it, to talk about it, to be proud about it. And they are. And electric vehicles love to talk about their cars. So it's a no-brainer, and they'll feel closer bond to you when you invited them to participate in something like this. And then it's really like a car show. There's just a bunch of cars parked. The hoods are open. The owners are sitting there on lawn chairs. They'll answer your questions. But we need to take a section of your parking lot and put orange cones out there. And we need to show two things. We need to show off-the-line acceleration, and we need to show some cornering, because electric vehicles have very low center of gravities due to the battery pack location. And it makes them really fun to drive. They're fast and they corner great, what everybody wants in a car. So if the owners would then take potential buyers on a drive around this route, you can have nonstop, more or less test drives going, even though it's the owner of the car driving instead of the guest. But it lets them experience the EV acceleration, lets them experience the cornering, and gets them excited enough to the point that at the end of the test drive, you hand them a card and say, hey, by the way, here's our website where you can get your questions answered. You can see some great videos about electric cars. And here's a list of dealers in the area that are really good at selling the cars and can really answer whatever remaining questions you have. If you do that, and the dealerships find out that you're doing this, because the customer goes in and said, hey, I went to this ride and drive event that Austin Energy put on. It was fantastic. And now I want to take a look at an electric car. That's great. That's going to get things rolling. Now that's just, something you guys can do to try to kick the can down the road a bit. The national events are wonderful. They get great turnout, but like I said, they're only, once a week. The auto industry is absolutely at a fundamental level going to be changed by the advent of electric vehicles. I don't know if you've read the news, but Cadillac told their dealers they're going 100% electric, and they offered a buyout. If you don't want to sell electric cars, we'll buy you out. And I think it was 35% of the Cadillac dealers took the buyout rather than sell this new kind of car. They just weren't interested in that at all. So this is going to happen. And there are dealerships that are going to go out of business. There are OEMs, manufacturers of vehicles, that are going to go out of business, names that we all have known for decades. If they don't get on this bandwagon early enough, they'll never be able to compete, and they'll never enter this new world. Already the OEMs are starting to hedge their bets. Volkswagen has already unveiled a store, much like an Apple store or a Tesla store, where you go in, learn about the vehicle, because it is a learning sale, and then you place your order, and 8 weeks later it gets delivered to you. GM, instead of delivering vehicles to the dealer lots, has decided on starting with this next generation of Chevrolets that's coming out right now. They're going to deliver them to a stocking lot, and from there, when a dealer needs to test drive one or sell one, they will go to the stocking lot, bring one out, test drive it, and sell it. So the dealers won't have the inventory cost anymore. They won't have the cars on their lot, because you would have some dealers that were really selling well and doing well with the cars, and other dealers feel like they're getting stuck with those cars and they don't know how to sell them. So the only tool they've got is reducing price, which reduces profit margin. They end up pulling customers in from the more skilled sales lot, because they're trying to make a profit, because they're working at this, and it undermines everything. So they figured this out, and they're going to have this inventory lot. Tesla, of course, we already know has stores. And the idea of the store is the reason I went into the car business. Here I am, a manager at Apple, and I'm a huge Apple fan, so I'm just having the time of my life. I look forward to driving into work every day. And I'm driving into work one day, and the whole freeway comes to a stop. And it's kind of almost like karma, but it was a fracking truck had flipped over that had stopped the entire freeway. Well, while I'm sitting there, I look up in the rearview mirror, and here comes a full-size SUV, full freeway speed, and the guy's got his phone up, and he's playing with it. So I know I'm not going to survive this. And I stand on the brake with both feet, and I'm just thinking, this is a stupid way to die, and there's no way out. At the last second, he hits the brakes, crushes my car, totals it, and gas is $4.50 a gallon back in 2012. So my wife, was the smart one. She's the one that said, hey, why don't we go try one of these plug-in cars? Maybe it'll be so cheap to operate, it'll make it worthwhile. And the rest is history. Well, my time at Apple, I loved introducing people to the Apple world. And in my opinion, it was a better world. It looks more expensive, but it's not. It looks more complex, but it's not. It's actually a lot easier. And it's exactly like the electric car market. And moving somebody from Windows to Mac OS, to me, is exactly the same as moving them from gasoline to electricity. And so it is, like I said, a learning sales cycle. The customer comes in, they've got tons of questions. You answer those questions. They go home, think about it, and come back with more questions. And that is okay when you're a store like an Apple or a Tesla or something like that, because if you're good enough at educating the consumer, they're going to buy the vehicle in the long run anyway. But what we've got to do is get that off the shoulder of the salespeople. Because think about it this way. If you get, when you sell a pickup truck, let's say a $600 commission and it takes you an hour and a half, or when you sell an electric car, you get a $300 commission, but it takes you 5 hours, you're asking that salesperson to work for a lower rate of pay, hourly rate of pay, just to move electric vehicles to help your industry. Well, it's not going to fly. Everybody wants the least difficult way to get to the money. So they're going to go sell what's easy. And your mission as the electric utilities is to start making that easier for them.